John Livier here, your host for Serious and Silliness Bodybuilding and Serious and Silliness Outcast. Great news. We have a brand new sponsor, Ideal Weight and Aesthetics. This place is a one-stop shop for weight loss, rejuvenation, energy, and anti-aging. This is a brand new startup company located at 160 Lanza Avenue, Garfield, New Jersey. Their number is 732-436-1924. You could also email them ideal@idealweightandaesthetics.com. This is basically what they do. They have a clinician look over all your blood work and they recommend what you should and should not do. They do weight loss, semaglutide and tirzepatide. They offer the NAD injections or drip, which is a brand new technology that everybody is jumping on. IV infusion, testosterone replacement therapy, and peptides, microneedling, and skin therapy. You guys know that I love to support small business. So really, give them a call, reach out. You'll feel better. It'll make you look better, and you'll be twice the person. You won't be disappointed. Take my word for it. Ideal Weight and Aesthetics. All right, series and Silliness Outcast. We got Scott Bernstein from the original Gangsta podcast. First of all, uh, we last time I had you on, it was great, and we had a great conversation about the underworld and organized crime. And thank you for coming back. And
Yeah.
I just want to give you a big thank you because I have a small podcast. I'm trying to make it grow, and for somebody like yourself to give me time and come on, I just want to give you a debt of gratitude because it means a lot to me when guys have this huge following and everybody knows you in the organized crime podcast world. So I just want to thank you very much, especially today, because last time we had some technical difficulties. We
Yeah.
tried doing this Sunday night, but so thank you very much for coming back, man. Truly appreciate it.
No, thank you. And I'm zooming in from Vegas. So I was out at the Mob Museum. I'm on the board at the Mob Museum in Vegas. Everybody go check it out if you're in town. It's the second most trafficked tourist site in Nevada right now, outside of the Hoover Dam. So it's pretty cool. It's off of Fremont Street downtown. It's the old federal courthouse and post office, and I do programming with them. I sit on their board, and we had a good time this week. And then next week, I just want to let everybody know if you're in Detroit, we're starting to a slate of live events that we're going to start doing. And the first one is on July 23rd at Macomb Community College in Warren, Michigan. It's about 4 miles north of Detroit, and it's called Hoffa Mystery Solved. And it's a 90-minute multimedia presentation about the Jimmy Hoffa disappearance, never before seen photos and archival video. And at the end of the program, we're going to open it up for question and answers. But before that, we're going to tell everybody the exact name of the person who killed Jimmy Hoffa and where
Really?
they took the body. So yeah, we're big night of revelations.
Yeah, apparently it only takes like 80 to 100 years to get like the
Right,
truth out there.
right.
You
Not
know,
that long, only a
yeah,
half century.
80 years from now, we'll find out who's on the Epstein files.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
that.
right.
It's unbelievable. But no, that sounds pretty cool, man. Because I'll definitely tune in if it's a live event. I'll definitely tune in because that
Well,
Jimmy Hop.
you'd actually have to need to be there. So,
Oh,
but we're gonna hopefully we're gonna be taking it on the road. So we'll
okay.
be kind of going from city to city. I mean, if everything goes well and we're able to kind of pull off our Detroit debut and we don't have any glitches, we intend to start kind of going to different cities, kind of like a live podcast, uh, taking renting a venue and having people come out and interact, engage with us.
That's fantastic. I actually have been to. I know exactly what you're talking about. I've been to one with Anthony Ruggiano Jr. and Rita Gigante.
Yeah.
They do that, and you could sit with them and ask questions, and it's actually a really good experience. When are you going to start this? When is this starting?
July 23rd. So it's 6 days from now.
Okay.
The first one's going to be July 23rd in Metro Detroit, Warren, Michigan, which is a couple miles north of Detroit on the east side. And we have the Performing Arts Center at the community college. We rented it out, and like I said, it's not just gonna be us on a stage with a mic. I mean, that's gonna be part of it, but we're gonna be showing photos and everybody that nobody's ever seen before, video that nobody's ever seen before. It's myself, a former mob figure named Novi Toko, who was a mob soldier in the Detroit Toko's early crime family, and then a federal prosecutor named Rick Convertino, who actually put Novi in prison. And they hadn't seen each other in 30 years since they were in the court, and Novi got found guilty. So we put them back together. Now they're buddies, and
That's amazing.
and we're going around talking Detroit mob and Hoffa together.
That's amazing. It's like two fighters, like uh,
Yeah,
like people who don't know, but Joe Louis and Max Schmeling actually became
yeah,
really good
that's
friends
a
after they, you
that's a
know,
great analogy.
yeah, or Gotti and Ward became great
Yeah.
friends after they beat the shit out of each other, you
Yeah, it's
know.
like cowboys and Indians and cops and robbers, and everybody's kind of doing their job. And I think, at least in Detroit, there's a mutual level of respect for the most part, where the mob guys don't look at the feds as evildoers. They're
Right.
just doing they're getting paid to do a job, and that's the job they do. And then from the other side, I don't know if the feds look at these guys as they're just we're assigned to make a case against you. We're going to make a case against you. It's not personal. So other cities, I know Philadelphia, for instance, uh, things can get really personal between the feds and the wise guys. Detroit's a little bit different.
Okay. All right. Well, you got to let me know if you come to New York City or New Jersey because
Now,
I'll.
that's the plan. Our first, or hopefully our first stop after we leave Detroit will be Jersey. So
Oh,
we'll let,
perfect.
we'll
Then I'll
let, we'll let,
definitely.
ideally, I'd like to do it in September, October. So we'll see.
All right, great. And I'll actually be in Vegas in September, so I'm going to check out the Mob
Yeah,
Museum.
please do. Please do.
All right. So what had happened was I saw a video of you talking about the Rizzuto crime family and their beef with the Hells Angels, and then the how they squashed the beef with and squashed the beef with the Hells Angels. And then I had on uh, Bob Jarvie, who is he has the podcast, the Canadian Biker News, and I had him on, and we talked about how the Angels, and we talked about the Rock Machine, and we talked about the Outlaws, and we talked about Blood Family, Mob, all the stuff, and it seemed it just I guess as an American, it just seems like Canada is still operating like it's
Yeah.
1982.
Yeah, that's a great. You just hit it on the head, buddy. You couldn't have said it any better. What's going on in Canada these last 10, 15 years is, I mean, I've used the term biblical. I mean, it's like
It's
the
insane.
amount of bloodshed is not of this era. It's like it's the 80s, or it's prohibition. I
Right.
mean, you've had I mean, I'm not. This isn't an exaggeration. You've had triple the body count is triple digits. So I mean, you're talking about over 100, maybe pressing towards 200 um, gangland homicides, and since 2009, since this thing erupted, and there's been these various iterations of the war. Every time you think the war's gonna stop, another group comes in and becomes a opposition, and then there's like offshoots of opposition that then become opposed to the initial group that they were with. You got perfect example is Blood Family Mafia that wasn't even it didn't exist when this thing started in 2009. Blood Family Mafia wasn't anything. Ice Pick Termel was like a 12-year-old kid.
Yeah.
um, and then in the last 5 years, they pop up and turn into this major force, and throw their hat in the ring in terms of combatants. And then there's been these various insurgencies within the Rizzuto crime family. It started with Reynald Desjardins and Sal Montana, the deported New York mob boss. They were the first insurgents from, let's say, 2009 to 2011, 12. Then the Scopa brothers, who were the Calabrian faction of the Rizzutos, took over, blessed by the Rizzutos to be the street bosses. And then they decided to attack their own, which was, they were part of the Rizzuto crime family. They decided to start their own insurgents. That lasted until 2019. Then you had the war with the Hells Angels.
Right.
Then that came to an end at the end of 24. And then in 25, you've had another group that's didn't exist a couple years ago and now is gaining a lot of power. They're called the Arabs with Attitude, AWA.
Jesus.
And then you have another group called the Rap Pack Mob, which is a mostly African American. I shouldn't say African American.
African
I just
Canadian.
say blacks.
Yeah.
They come from. They are, some of them are African Americans, but some of them are Haitians and Jamaicans
Right.
um, and they all have nicknames of rappers. The leader is a guy named Tupac,
Oh Jesus.
Atna, and Atna Ana. They call Tupac, and he's been on, like, he was in the Rizzuto camp, then he was in the Hell's Angels camp, then he came back to the Rizzuto camp, and now he's opposed is opposed to the Rizzuto. So
It's
uh,
unbelievable. Yeah, first of all, it's unbelievable as uh growing up in New York, you know my story. The fact that they actually have Sicilian and Calabrese factions still in Canada just blows me away. Because in New York, it's like, do you have any Italian blood in you? Good enough.
yeah, right, yeah.
It's unreal. But here's a little
I would say most of the Calabrian mafia in Canada comes out of Toronto.
really
Um, the Rizzuto crime family has always had a Calabrian strand. Uh, for a long time, a guy named Compare Frank Arcadi, um, was the leader of that group and still kind of is. He's the only member of Vito Rizzuto's inner circle that's still standing 15 years later.
right.
Um,
It's amazing that they call him compare because in Italian that means Godfather.
right.
You know,
Well,
so
for that strain,
right.
he was, and the Scopas came from him, and then they went and broke off. Yeah, so it's a little confusing and a little intense.
The video that I saw that I really wanted to talk about today, the one that you was when they had made this peace agreement
Hmm.
between the Hells Angels and the Rizzutos, and you said that I think Lenny, I guess I don't know if they call him Lenny or Leonardo Rizzuto is the
Leo, they call him
oh,
Leo the lawyer.
Leo.
That's his
Okay,
nickname for
he
Leo.
had to go into hiding during this time. You said, and then
Um, I don't know exactly how I would categorize it. I don't want to
okay,
disrespect Leo because I think he's been underrated by myself. I mean, I went on national television in 2024 and said that he wouldn't last the year, and he has the last laugh, and he's been way more resilient and savvy than I think a lot of people have given him credit for. Uh, I make an analogy to The Godfather. He is Michael. He wasn't trained for this. His brother was. His brother Nicky was supposed to be the guy that took over for his dad and his grandpa, and he was murdered. It was the first murder in the war. Little Nicky, or not Little Nicky, they call him Nicky Ritzy Nick or Nick the Ritz,
okay,
was gunned down in the end of 2009, and that's what started all of this. And Leo Rizzuto went from somebody that had been sent to university and got a college degree and then got a law degree and was supposed to just be a businessman that helped his family out with legal affairs.
right,
And by the mid 2010s, he was having to interject himself into the leadership of the crime family to, put his lawyering aside and become
right.
a mobster and a gangster because the family business was in peril. And he took over and maybe had some growing pains, had issues with the Hells Angels, didn't get on the same page with them early on, and I think they viewed him as a weak spot that they could exploit, and that it turned out not to be true.
Right,
And
right, right.
to answer your question, I'm sorry, it was a long preamble,
That's fine.
but I don't know if it was hiding, but he was definitely, maybe it's semantical. He was laying low.
Okay.
He had gone to Sicily to take counsel and spend some time in Sicily, and definitely was not out in public throughout the end of 23 and most of 24 as he had been prior to the assassination attempt that he dodged in March of 2023.
All right. So let's well, we're gonna get to that. How did this beef start between the Hells Angels in Canada and the Rizzuto crime family? How did it start? Uh, because I thought they were out.
They had worked together for, at that point the war started between them in late 2022. They had been there had been an alliance between the Rizzutos and the Hells Angels for 40 years before that.
Okay.
Vito Rizzuto, brokered a working relationship with the Hells Angels right when his father, Zio Nicolo,
Mhm.
took over in Montreal in a palace coup, where they took out the Violis and assumed power, and they saw a kindred spirit, I guess, in the Hell's Angels, and wanted to work with them. And they had a very mutually beneficial relationship for 40 years, where they both made a lot of money together
Mhm.
and complemented each other, and there were never any issues. And then Leo took over in 2017 or 16. I think he took over in 16 or 17.
Okay.
And there was a learning curve. And Leo Rizzuto is very polished and very um he's the opposite of a lot of these bikers. His dad was polished as well, but his father, I think, had an easier time, at least at first. And Leo, I think, has adapted and has done a good job of evolving towards this. But Vito could just, even though he was of more esteem and polish is the word I'll use,
Mhm.
he could really get on their level, and they really could see eye to eye. Leo, I think, at first had a difficult time doing that. He had uh, some some bad blood that might have been still kind of some residual. There had been some issues in the late '90s where he got into a fight with the Hell's Angel, and Hell's Angel allegedly, roughed him up. Leo Rizzuto got roughed up by this Hell's Angel. This Hell's Angel was eventually killed.
Uh-huh.
But I don't know if that was the best place to start. The starting point for Leo Rizzuto, you already kind of
Right.
had it. So things they coexisted for a couple years, and then in 2019 there was a murder of a Hell's Angel that they called Dirty Diaz. Um, and Dirty Diaz was a younger collector, enforcer for the Niagara chapter of the Hells Angels. He was a guy that was very well liked by guys that ran that chapter. Teflon Rob Barletta, who is now in Montreal, but at that time was uh, at the Niagara chapter, was you know a mentor to Dirty Diaz. Uh, Truck McQuillam, who got killed a couple months ago,
Right.
um, was another guy that was close to Dirty Diaz. So Dirty Diaz was suspected of skimming proceeds that he collected from gambling operations that were shared by the Rizzutos and the Hells Angels.
Okay.
Normally, when something like that happens, and two groups are working together, there's a order of operation or a protocol to figure out what the fallout's going to be, like who's going to have to pay the piper.
Right.
And according to my sourcing, the Rizzutos didn't go through the proper protocols. They didn't tell the Hells Angels what they were going to do, and they just killed Dirty Diaz. They sent a hit team from Montreal to Ontario. They stalked Dirty Diaz for a week, got him coming out of a gym. That seems to be a typical way in this war. They get a lot of guys coming out of their fitness centers where
Really?
they're working out with weights and they're coming out to go to their
Thank,
car and they
thank
get
God
hit.
I'm not in that world.
Yeah.
Be
So
easy to find.
they got Dirty Diaz coming out of a gym in the Toronto area. Those the hit team from Montreal was arrested and most of them were convicted. The getaway driver was acquitted, and then a couple months later he was killed. But there was a lot of tension that developed after the spring of 2019 because of what happened with Dirty Diaz. And then you had a situation where a very well-known and very feared Rizzuto mob capo, Francesco Chit Del Basso, who had been just a legendary figure in the Rizzuto crime family for a pretty young guy. Uh, just a very fearsome individual that you did not want to see at your doorstep,
Okay.
collected a debt. And he came out of prison and expected to slot back into where he had been before. He was very close to Vito Rizzuto. He had once been a bodyguard for Leo Rizzuto. So I think he assumed that there would be no problems. He'd come out of prison and he'd come back and take over his old job.
Right. Right. Right.
But he was, for lack of a better term, was edged out. Um, the Rizzutos stripped him kind of everything that he had.
Any particular
Uh,
reason why, if he's that good?
I still don't know exactly why. I hope that kind of comes out,
Okay.
whether in my reporting or other reporting, as the years go on. I'm not sure what the root of it is. I'm sure at some point it had to do with money and who was getting what and what
Right.
percentage of what. But he was basically told to kick bricks, and they took his rackets and they gave them to the Calabrian wing of the family, Campari Frank's guy, a guy they call Mini Me. They call him Mini Me because he's Campari Frank's right hand man. His real name's Carmelo Canestraro.
Okay.
But I think after the Austin Powers,
Yeah.
they he was always next to Campari Frank or by Campari Frank's side, so they call him Mini Me, and it means a mini
Right.
Frank Cacardi. Uh, and Del Basso did, you know, what was best for him at that time, which was, well, if the Rizzuto mob doesn't want me a part of their organization anymore, I'm going to leverage the contacts that I have with the Hells Angels. And
Mhm.
he had worked with the Hells Angels for a while, in his criminal career. And in 2021, he links up with the Hells Angels. He doesn't become a member of the Hells Angels, but uh, partners with them. And really, so the first shot across the bow in this iteration or this the war that ended between the Hells Angels and the Rizzutos that went on from 22 to the end of 24. The first shot across the bow was the Rizzutos tried to kill Chit Del Basso in October of 22,
Mhm.
and they sprayed his Mercedes with automatic weapon fire. He survived it. Um, then there was a peace conference that settled everything down for a couple months. Then somebody tried to kill Del Basso again in
Wow.
February of 23, and then that brought everything back to the surface, and the flames of war started raging again. And then in March of 23, Chit Del Basso tried to assassinate Leo Rizzuto. And you know the old saying is, "You come for the king, you better not miss."
Right.
And they missed.
Oh
And
God.
then a couple months later, Chit Del Basso was murdered coming out of a gym. I don't think he
Yeah.
wasn't he wasn't working out at the gym. He was meeting the Hell's Angels at the gym.
Okay. That's
So
it's unbelievable.
that's how
Um,
it started. That's how it started. So it
that's
started at the end of 22 into 23, and then raged all the way through 23, most of 24, and then came to a conclusion on December 11th, 2024.
wow. So according to the video that you put out, you said that Leo Rizzuto and
Marty Robert.
Ramadi Robert from the Hells Angels had a meeting, an 8 hour meeting. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I've gotten some people telling me that the 8 hours might have been an exaggeration. It might have been 5 or 6.
Okay.
It was a long meeting. Started late at night, ended early the next morning. Um, there was security teams from both sides, leadership from both sides. They went into the basement of De Emma, which is a really nice Italian restaurant in downtown Montreal. It actually used to be a prison. It was a
Really?
it was a jail that was abandoned, that the owners of the Italian restaurant bought and turned it into a restaurant.
That's ironic, right?
So
Jesus.
it's a appropriate
Yeah.
location. And yeah, they sat down face to face and worked out their differences. I'm told that by the end of the night, or the end of the meeting, was maybe 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and they were, by the end, they were toasting and drinking and getting along. And since then, the alliance that had fallen apart has been put back together, and everybody's one big happy family again.
Okay.
And uh, surprisingly, there has not been any any fallbacks, or people that didn't want the relationship to be cobbled back together. And
Okay.
everything I've been told, that it's water under the bridge, and everybody's copacetic.
Wow. Okay. Now the Rizzutos, did they operate? Are they structured like the New York families, where they boss a
It's a
couple
little,
of people?
it's a little different,
Okay, got it.
um, but similar.
Do they have
Uh,
capos and made
yeah,
men?
they have skippers that are in charge of certain areas. Um, they have an informal hierarchy. I call it underboss and consigliere. Some people in Canada get mad at me and say that it's not that formal. Okay, but it's 1, 2, 3.
Yeah,
So whatever
yeah.
you want to call the second guy, if you want to call him underboss, you don't want to call him underboss, he's number 2. And
Right.
whoever you want to call the third guy, whether you want to call him consigliere or not, he's number 3. So a lot of this, um, a lot of the what's happened in the last year or two can be credited to the underboss, uh, Pietro Diadamo,
Okay.
who they call Black Pete, and he's dating Leo Rizzuto's sister right now.
Oof.
And he comes from the west or southwest side of Montreal. He's been a guy that come from hard scrabble beginnings, and came up under Vito Rizzuto, but also the Irish mob, the West End gang, who controls the west end of the city. And
They
uh,
still have an Irish mob.
oh yeah, the West End gang is still very prominent and widespread. They control the docks, all the longshoremen. And when you control the docks, it's pretty powerful. You control goods and services coming in and out of the country.
It's
And
basically the inmates running the asylum.
yeah,
Wow.
So and I know I'm going all over the place here, but one of the ways that this Rat Pack mob, who I said earlier in the broadcast, they were with the Rizzutos and they were with the Hells Angels and they were back with the Rizzutos. Now they're against both the Hells Angels and the Rizzutos. Uh, One of the ways they've been able to get a foothold um, independently is control of the docks, or not control of all the docks, but they've cut into the Irish mob's control of the docks.
Wow.
So, which is very unique that a street gang,
Right.
you never really hear about it. You hear about the Mafia or the Irish mob controlling the docks, but you never hear about a black street gang
No.
having control of the docks. But Tupac and his guys have been able to um,
But they seem
get
to be a lot more
themselves
sophisticated than,
foothold.
yeah,
Yeah.
they seem to be a lot more sophisticated than Black American gangs. Usually it's all drugs, when it comes down to it.
Well,
With
it depends. Yeah, I would say the only exception, and I'm getting into the weeds here. The only exception is the Black Mafia family, which is the
right.
biggest African American organized crime group, and they took over the whole country in a very organized way.
Within the prison system, though, didn't they?
No, no, they took over the whole country's the whole United States wholesale cocaine business from about 95 to '05 was
Really?
controlled by Black Mafia family, and they started in Detroit, and then they expanded around the country, and they did it surprisingly, in shocking fashion. They did it without much, if any, violence. It was
Wow.
all diplomacy. They went into every city and pitched them on why they should be allowed to come in and plant a flag and let other drug gangs come underneath them. And they modeled themselves after the Italian mob,
Mhm.
and were able to be way more, like to your point, way more organized um, and layered and sophisticated than most, like street gangs like Bloods and Crips.
Right, right, right. Now the Rizzutos, do they have a huge membership? How many guys are in their family?
Uh, I don't know a number right now. I know that based on my reporting in either the end of the spring or early summer. Well, let me just back up for a second.
Okay.
So as everything was coming to an end in terms of the war between the Hells Angels and the Rizzutos, and everything was going fine for 3 or 4 months. All of a sudden, the crown, which when you say the crown in Canada, you're talking about the government.
Right.
The crown came in and hit them with a huge case, a giant, what we would call in our country a racketeering case. They call gangsterism. That's their version of racketeering.
Okay.
So it was called Project Alliance, and it dropped maybe first week of June. So all of the leadership of the Rizzuto crime family right now is locked up
Really?
and awaiting trial.
Okay.
So they got Pete Adamo, the underboss, who really set up the peace conference. I mean, the reason that the two sides came back together can be traced to one person and one person only, and that's Pete Diadamo,
Okay.
who's a guy that went from a ancillary character in this play to a main character, and could be, if we're going to analogize it to Hollywood, he's in the running now for best supporting actor at the Oscars,
That's
because this guy
unbelievable.
has proven to be a master gangland politician.
Okay.
And I don't know if many people would have expected it, because he was a little bit, he came from a part of Canada, or a part of Montreal, I said, but that I mean a part of Montreal that's not very sophisticated.
Yeah,
Southwest LaSalle, West End, it's working class. It's not where the Rizzutos come from, which is Laval, which is like Beverly Hills.
Okay.
That's in the
Okay.
north, and they come
Gotcha.
from the very opulent, very affluent part of Montreal. Pete Diadamo, even though now he's dating the princess, he comes from kind of the other side of the tracks. And I don't know if there were many people that would have predicted that he would become this, in a very short period of time, would become this very instrumental diplomat that put to bed all the tensions and got everyone back on the same page. And he created something that's known as the Union, which was the way that the war came to an end, was by creating the Union, which is a kind of like a board, regulatory body on the street that has representations from all the different groups and reports directly to the Hells Angels and the Rizzutos.
That's
And
fascinating. That's absolutely fascinating. This is, I mean, I can't believe that there is not. There's got to be books written about it. I can't believe there's no screenplay. There's no
there's
movie.
definitely, well, this what's happened in the last couple of years. They'll definitely, whether I might write it, uh, if the reporters in Canada don't write it, there definitely needs to be something written about the last decade. There's been stuff written about, let's say, '09 to 16, 17. There was on FX. There was uh, a docu series with Paul Sorvino and Anthony LaPaglia.
Okay.
Um, but yes, I agree. There definitely needs to be more written about this. So,
Unbelievable.
so they created this thing called the Union, and that was a big reason why everybody was. It made it so what happened back in 2019 would never happen again. It
God.
was okay. So if something like that happens, you go to the union. The union goes to the leadership. It's like if somebody is stealing, you
Right.
you go up the ladder, and there's a protocol to solve the problem. You don't just go solve it yourself.
I
So
can't believe it.
so so the union was created to prevent something like what happened in 2019. Then in March, about 3 months before the big Project Alliance case hits, Pete Diadamo is arrested at a traffic stop. There was some type of tip that he was traveling with a gun. He's a convicted felon. He's not allowed to have a weapon.
Mhm.
And so they took him into custody in March. They took him off the street. Then everybody else gets taken off the street in the beginning of June. And I know it's a long preamble to answer your question, but in terms of numbers, I'm going to get back to what you asked me about how many people. Okay, so then let's go to the middle of June, end of June, and there's a making ceremony held via FaceTime.
Really?
Uh, Vito Rizzuto, or sorry, not Vito Rizzuto, R.I.P. Vito Rizzuto, Leo Rizzuto, and Pete Diadamo from prison get their hands on a smuggled iPhone, and they gather everybody in the family at a residence in Saint Leonard, Saint Leonard, Saint Leo,
Right.
the
Right.
little Italy in Montreal, and they held a making ceremony.
Now,
Probably the
is the ceremony the same
first
as
ever virtual making ceremony.
that's but it's this like blows me away because you're getting down to the point where the mafia in New York is like almost irrelevant, right? I mean, they get it, they're still there, but the violence is low, the membership is
Yeah,
low.
they don't kill people anymore.
Right. Um, is the ceremony to make somebody the same? I mean, with the
And see, that's another thing people were, kind of saying like, well, they can't do. I'm like, they're not LCN. They can do whatever they want. They're not La Cosa Nostra. They don't belong to the American Mafia. At
right,
one point, they had an affiliation with the Bonanos or whatever, but they're an independent entity. They don't have to follow any rules. They follow their own rules. So
right,
if they want to have a making ceremony over FaceTime, then that's what they're going to do.
yeah, right,
But the reason I'm bringing it up is you're asking me about
right,
numbers. I think it says something if Leo and Pete Diadamo think that they got to make people from jail. It probably says something about their numbers not being where they want it to be.
right.
With these guys looking to be, Canada's got very lenient criminal punishments. You can murder people and you only do 5 years, as opposed to you murder people and America, most likely you're doing 20, 25, 30, if not
Right.
life.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So they're preparing for the leadership of that family to be away for a couple of years, minimum. I mean, they realize that they're dead to rights. That they've got 10 murders that they're trying to pin on them right now. They're going to go to trial in the fall. They're not coming out for the next couple of years at minimum. So they wanted to make people, and then I'm told they held the kind of a State of the Union address where Leo Rizzuto and Pete D'Adamo reassured everybody that they still had control of the family, that they were going to run the family from prison, that they did not intend on giving up the family to an acting boss the way that Leo's dad did, and it didn't work out so well because the family, erupted into war. And they told everybody that we're going to run the show from prison. We're bringing in new guys. We're reorganizing, and this was all done about a month ago.
Now, when the Rizzutos were with the Bananas, was it controlled by New York? Were
Kind
they like
of.
were they like similar to like
They were a satellite.
but right? Is that how it worked? Kind of
So
like the
yeah,
other families in the
the
States?
Bonanos sent somebody, Carmine Galante, the cigar, the famous, he was killed in a famous fashion in 1979 in
Yeah,
Brooklyn, eating a meal and smoking a cigar.
yeah, the
There's a
famous
famous
picture.
picture of him lying on the
I
ground, bloodied
understand
with a
that.
cigar.
Is it true that the
They
cigar
put
was
they put the
planted?
cigar in his mouth
Yeah,
afterwards. That's
yeah,
the yeah. That's what.
yeah.
Uh, he went to Montreal in the '50s on behalf of Joe Bonanno and opened up shop for the Bonanos in Montreal. So there had always been this. I guess it was formal, a
Right.
formal relationship with the Bonanos, where the Bonanos were co-signing what was the Montreal Mafia. It started as the Catronis and then became the Violis, then became the Rizzutos. Uh, when the Rizzutos took over, that relationship was on borrowed time. The Rizzutos didn't want to be under the Bonanos. And by the 90s, they were pushing back on, you know, on orders being sent their way
Mm,
and basically saying, okay, we're running our own thing here and we don't really need you anymore.
right.
We don't need your co-signing. So at some point in the 90s, they broke off.
Okay.
So it's been about 30 years of them independent.
Now, is the Rizzutos are they the only Italian mafia family in Canada,
Not in Canada, in Montreal,
in Montreal?
but in Toronto, there are other mob families from other parts of Italy. And
Okay.
the guy that's the godfather of Montreal is a guy named Jimmy DeMara, Jimmy Di Maria DeMara, and he's Calabrian, and he runs the Endragata in Toronto. They've been trying to deport him forever. He's been like battling deportation for decades.
What it scream the Canadian government screams corruption when you see this.
Oh yeah, I mean,
There's got to be no other because why else
and
would you let?
the government, the police, the
Yeah,
judiciary.
because
Each,
there was a report that I saw that when the Hells Angels were at war, the Blood Family Mafia, and
by the way, they're still at war with the Blood Family Mafia.
oh really?
The
That's
Blood
not
Family Mafia, and I know this is confusing. People that are watching this are probably just in their head swimming because there's so much
yeah, it's
information
just
coming
so
at
much.
them. But Blood Family Mafia, and then all these different shifting allegiances. So Blood Family Mafia went to war with the Hells Angels in 2023 at the same time that the Rizzutos were at war with them. And Ice Pick Termel, who's the leader of Blood Family Mafia, made a deal with the Rizzutos
Okay.
where he got support from them because at that time it's like your enemy's enemy is your friend.
Right, 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 right.
So they joined forces through most of 23 and then about half of 24. And then Rizzuto sent word to Termel, who was on the run in Europe, that you need to make peace. Like, we're trying to make peace. You need to make peace. And this was after a 7-year-old girl was killed accidentally
Mm.
in a firebombing, and a 14-year-old boy was burned to death
Oh,
because he was working for Blood Family Mafia and got caught trying to shoot up and burn down a Hell's Angels clubhouse. It was getting really out of hand, and the media was really banging the drum of this needs to stop because innocent people are now being killed. So Rizzuto sent word to Turmel that if you don't make peace now, you don't have our backing anymore.
right.
So since the fall of 24, the Rizzutos no longer co-sign Blood Family Mafia, and Blood Family Mafia has ignored the Rizzutos' mandate and has continued their war with the Hells Angels. They're just doing it without the support of the Rizzutos.
It does, yeah. Ice Pick Tomel does not look like, doesn't seem like the type of person that is very reasonable. Uh,
Well,
it
this
sounds
guy, for a 28-year-old young man, he's etched his name in the kind of in the Mount Rushmore of Montreal crime lords, and a very, or I shouldn't say Montreal,
right.
Quebec crime lords, because he's from Quebec City.
Yeah,
Um, what he's done is, I don't know. Well, yeah, it's impressive. I mean, first of all, it's impressive. He was a kid that came out of nowhere and went and consolidated all of the street gangs in Quebec City to oppose the Hells Angels. He was 25 when this was going on, when he decided to do this. He was working with the Hells Angels, working with a guy that's kind of known as the Hells Angels Prince in Quebec City, Matt Pelletier. And their falling out led to him declaring war against Matt Pelletier's father, who's the godfather of Quebec City Hells Angels and everybody else. But he, at 25 years old, he went, a white guy, went and consolidated all of the ethnic street gangs in Quebec City behind him, like 15 different groups consolidating behind Blood Family Mafia.
yeah,
Uh, and now Blood Family Mafia is spreading around Canada. It used to be just a Quebec City thing. Now it's spreading all around the country,
right.
and it's the brainchild and the um, the evil genius
Yeah.
that is Ice Pick Turmel. And Ice Pick Turmel is now in custody in Italy and waiting to get extradited back to
Canada.
Canada.
Yeah, so if people are confused, basically you have the Rizzutos, which is the Italian mafia, then you have the Hells Angels, who are the biker club that
Bikers,
everybody knows. Blood Family Mafia is basically these street gangs that were consolidated by a very
ambitious young
yeah
man,
ambitious young man, and they call him Ice Pick.
ambitious, fearless young man.
I mean, that is some nickname to live up to, Ice Pick Tomel.
Right.
I believe
Huh?
didn't he kill two people outside of a nightclub or stabbed, and that's how he got the nickname? Am I accurate or no?
I don't know if he killed him. I think he might have. There might have been a stabbing.
Yeah, okay, it might have been.
But you can find pictures of him when he's like from when he's like 12 years old.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
that
it's on.
this kid's a baby. There's pictures of him on his Facebook, and when he was in junior high school. Um, and he's a just like the one similarity I would say between the United States and Canada, that there's um, this blending of the hip hop world and the street gangs. So David Ice Pick Turmel, in his short time as a crime lord in Canada, because he was the last 2 years he's been in Europe.
Right.
Um, but in the handful of years that he was in Canada building his empire, he was appearing in all these rap videos,
Oh
and
my God.
all the big rappers were shouting him out and having him in the video. And
That's unbelievable. Now, is I understand, just to explain how vicious he is and how vicious his crew is. He was actually kidnapping Hell's Angels and torturing them on video.
yeah, so that's when this thing really went off the rails. Was about a year into his war with the Hells Angels. This is also when the Rizzuto started to have second thoughts about teaming up with him.
Okay.
Uh, so the Hells Angels in Quebec went. Turmel is indicted right after the war starts in 23, and he flees. He goes to Europe about 2 or 3 months into the war, and the Rizzutos are helping hide him. He's in safe houses in Sicily, in Morocco, in Spain. So he's jumping around Europe and North Africa. Um, at some point in late 23, a pretty infamous Hell's Angel from Quebec City named Mario Bananas Auger, who was the sergeant at arms for the, which means you're the main enforcer for the Quebec City Hell's Angels.
Mhm.
And he gets sent on a diplomatic mission to go to Portugal, which is another place that he was hanging out.
Right.
He goes to Lisbon, Portugal, to go meet with Turmel and make peace. Has a peace offering, and it was, from what I understand, a pretty good peace offering. Like the whole issue between the whole thing started over this 10% tax
Right. Yes.
that the
Yes.
Hells Angels have always had on non-Hells Angels that are selling drugs in Quebec City. This
Mhm.
goes all the way back to the 80s.
Okay.
And Turmel didn't want to pay the 10% tax. And then he went and got a bunch of other people that wanted to push back on the 10% tax. So, from what I'm told, part of the peace offering that was brought to him by Auger was, we'll remove the 10% tax, or we'll lower it, or he would get a, if you were doing like a wins and losses, I mean, that would have been a win
Right.
for Turmel and Blood Family Mafia, that they were offering to either lower or get rid of it altogether. He wouldn't even sit down with Auger. Auger, his trip was in vain. He went to Portugal and couldn't. Ice Pick's guy said he won't meet with you. So
Wow.
then Auger goes back to Canada, and a couple months later, Turmel, from his iPhone or whatever, or encrypted messaging apps, is is like war general. He's like the war general, but from 1,000 miles away.
Right.
And he ordered Auger kidnapped and Auger's nephews and cousins kidnapped. Auger is able to fight his way out of the attack. Like, they tried to grab him, and I don't know if he shoots at them or whatever. He gets away.
Right.
The nephews and the cousins do not get away,
Wow.
and to what you said, they take him to a house and they start cutting off appendages. They're cutting off fingers and ears and toes and taping it and sending it around. And you can imagine what Auger is, you know, the level the level of anger and
I
disrespect.
this is unbelievable.
So then Auger basically gets a posse together and goes over back to Europe to hunt him down. And Marty Robert, who's the godfather of all the Hells Angels in Canada, him and Nurgat Stadnik, they put a $500,000 contract on Turmel's head, and it's an open contract. They're saying anybody that kills him will get $500,000 from us.
Wow. Now,
So they
it is
went over
also true
there.
that the Angels also went to the police for help. Is that accurate too?
They didn't go to the police for help. They went and this is where it's just different here and there. Uh, what Auger did when Auger came back after he was unsuccessful in hunting Turmel, and it was a second trip to Europe in like a 4 or 5 month span. Auger went to the police department. He didn't ask for help. He was making a statement on the behalf of the Hells Angels, telling the police, "We're done with our war. We
Ah.
want you to know that we're not gonna be hunting Turmel anymore. We're gonna put an end to it."
Oh,
And
I
at that point, that was the first. There were a couple uh, uh, ceasefires that didn't hold. So there was a ceasefire at that point, it didn't hold. Then there was another ceasefire uh, uh, last year in the spring that didn't hold, and then there was a third ceasefire in the fall of 24 that didn't hold. So this was the first time there was a ceasefire. Mario Bananas came back, went to the police department, like you said, in Quebec City, sat down with them, but didn't sit down with them in a capacity to give them information or to try to put them on the scent of Blood Family Mafia. He went down and sat down and said, "You don't have to worry about us anymore. We're done with our war."
But I mean, I know the Canada is different, but isn't that incriminating yourself? Like,
Yeah, it's weird, right? And then a couple weeks after that, they indict Auger, and Auger's been locked up ever since. He's been locked up since April 24.
holy shit! This is just unbelievable. This is worse than 1980s America.
Yeah, it's insane. It's absolutely insane.
It's
All the stuff that's been going on. First, starting in 2009, it was crazy, and it's just getting crazier by the decade.
now the ice pick sounds like a sociopath. It sounds like he
Yeah, I
doesn't.
would say that's probably true. I
Yeah,
mean, if
yeah,
you're,
yeah. It doesn't
I don't
sound
know
like
what you would, I don't know how you would think that would help you by cutting off the fingers of a nephew of a very, very powerful, dangerous Hell's Angel member.
yeah,
I mean,
because
that just,
it doesn't sound like he has. First of all, he's got to be extremely charismatic, right?
yeah,
It has to be, and feared. Okay, at the same time, but it doesn't sound
and
like he has.
connected and connected.
Okay, yes, yes, yeah, yeah. But it doesn't sound like he's much of a diplomat. Like it doesn't sound like he
No,
will.
he didn't want to meet with Auger when he came over there.
Right. So then, what's the end game here? Right? Do
The end game, I think, is to be,
because you're not gonna
on
wipe out these.
Mount. He already achieved his end game. He's on Mount Rushmore already. He's 28 years old. He could be killed tomorrow, and people would be talking about Ice Pick Trammell for another 100 years.
But
Uh,
normally, organized crime, Hell's Angels, it's all about money and making money and power and maneuvering into new territory and making even more money and so on and so forth. It doesn't seem that way with him. It seems like there
he
isn't an
wants.
end.
I'll tell you, his end game is infamy. That's the end game.
Ah, okay.
He wants to be infamous. He's already achieved it. Anything else now is gravy. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, part of me says, well, the end game is to unseat the Hells Angels and be top dogs in Quebec City, but you'd have to be you'd have to be, mentally ill to think that that's even remotely possible. I mean, the Hells Angels, you're talking about 6,000 full pack members around the
Yeah,
world.
yeah,
They're not going anywhere. They're not. You could never unseat them.
right,
If you got rid of people like Mario Bananas and the Pelletiers and all those guys, there would just be other people coming in behind them.
right.
So I don't know how you could think that somehow in your conflict with them you were going to eliminate them. That's never going to happen. So that couldn't be a. I mean, maybe he thought that, but it wasn't. That thought wasn't rooted in any type of reality.
It's just bad, and I can't. Like, they have to make a movie. If they made that shitty movie, White Boy Rick, which was trash,
That
right?
was my movie.
Oh, was it really?
It was horrible. I hated it.
It's
It was sourced in my. It was sourced from my reporting.
oh, really?
It was the night. It was a nightmare. It was. It was. Uh it's the old saying. Be careful what you wish for, because
Well,
it was the dream come true. I had Sony and Matthew McConaughey and all these people come in and saying we want to take your reporting and turn it into a $40 million film, and we want to hire you to be part of it. And from that point forward, it was a nightmare.
it's just
As
unbelievable.
you're saying, you didn't even know I worked on it, and you're saying it was a horrible fucking movie. It
Oh,
was horrible.
awful. I couldn't even sit through it. It was
It
fucking
was
awful.
horrible. Now the documentary, I executive produced a documentary that's on Netflix. That's outstanding. It's
Okay.
called White. It's not, if I do say so myself. It's called White Boy. You can get it on Netflix.
Okay. I
It's
gotta
the
check
true
that out.
story behind the shitty movie.
Yeah. I got to check that one out because and Hollywood seems to do that with the exception of Scorsese. They seem to take a great story and just
Well, Scorsese did it with Irishman. I mean that's just a travesty of massive proportions. But
yeah,
I still love Marty Scorsese. He's still my favorite director. But I got a lot of issues with the
Yeah,
Irishman.
no, The Irishman was definitely not one of his best. That's
The
for
movie itself wasn't bad. The
I
movie,
thought.
but what the actual story it was telling was just all fake news.
Yeah, and I just hire a younger actor. Don't try to CGI.
Yes,
It was
I
all
agree.
because anytime De Niro or Pesci would have to look younger, their mannerisms were still old, and it looked horrible. It just looked horrible.
I agree.
It was
I
just,
agree.
it was fucking horrible. But yeah, no. Um, Scott, it's a fucking honor to have you, man, because you're a wealth of knowledge. This blows me away. And if
I'm
somebody
shocked that. Sorry, finish. I'm sorry.
no. If somebody actually did make a movie or a series, they wouldn't believe all this is happening. They'd be like, "Nah, there's no way.
Yeah,
There's no way." But this is
I mean, I'm shocked
fascinating.
that for somebody that's not Canadian and somebody that hasn't been reporting on this stuff for that long. I mean, I, I'm I'm shocked that I've been able to get a stronghold in the crime reporting game in Canada from Michigan and get people from both the Hells Angels, the government, the police, and the Rizzutos to trust me enough to
Wow.
bring me information on a real time basis, where then I can go out and scoop the mainstream media out there. And I know it's making those mainstream media guys angry that I'm getting a lot of scoops before them. Um,
Everybody, I don't know how it is in Canada, but nobody's listening to the mainstream media in the States. Everybody listens to
well,
podcasts now.
right, exactly.
Uh,
So I'm putting stuff out so just for an example, and not to pat myself too hard on the shoulder, but I put out the Peace Summit story. It happened on December. I know the exact date. It was a Wednesday night, December 11th. And I put it out. It was either a couple of days before Christmas or a couple of days after Christmas. So I put it out in December of 24.
okay.
The mainstream media in Montreal at first laughed at it, and they're calling me, telling me that I don't know what I'm talking about.
Oh God.
Then fast forward to April, so like 5 months later, they report it and they say, "Oh, this was originally." They don't even give me due credit. They say this was originally reported by some guy in Detroit. They don't even mention my name. They're like, some podcaster in Detroit said this in
Yeah.
December.
Everybody listens to
Yeah,
podcasts. Nobody watches the news unless you're over 60.
yeah,
Nobody's watching the news
yep.
anymore,
You're
and
right.
it's
You're right.
unbelievable. But Scott, thank you so much, man. And are you doing any fun stuff in Vegas? Are you doing any gambling
Yeah. So
or
I was here for the
business?
Mom Museum, which was a lot of fun. The Mom Museum's downtown Vegas, uh, which is great. But
Yeah,
I kind of like to get a diversity of experience. So we spent a couple of days downtown with the Mom Museum, and now we're on the Strip.
nice.
So I love Vegas. Try to come here once or twice a year.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm I'm proud of myself in terms of my gambling itch.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I've been able to control myself, not go too crazy. I remember the first time I was ever in Vegas. I I was waiting for my friends to get in. This was like in 2000 or 2001,
Right.
and I'm at the hotel. They're about 2 or 3 hours behind me, and by the time they got there, I was like, "Guy, I've lost like $800 in those 3 hours. I'm already 800 in the hole before we even start the weekend."
It's impossible not to gamble. The
Yeah,
first time what blew me away about Vegas was the first time I went to Las Vegas was I think 2000. 2000. Yeah, 2000.
yeah, right. Well, we were around the same time,
Yeah,
breaking our cherry at the same
I was
time.
a young guy and I couldn't wait to go. But when you get off the plane, before you even get your
Right,
luggage,
right. You can gamble in the airport.
yeah, so somebody went broke before they even got their
Yeah.
luggage. That happened.
It's a
It's
great town, though. I mean, I'm not here to the city doesn't need me singing their praises, but I tell everybody that's never been there. My dad hasn't been to Vegas since the '70s. And I
oh
tried to explain to my father, like, you can't say that I've been to Vegas. I mean, okay, you were there. It is so different now. Like you need to come see. It's just a place that you need to see. It's so unique.
Yeah.
Even if you come here for a couple days, it's like nothing you've ever seen before.
Yeah, it's my favorite vacation spot too. I'll be there in September for about 6 days, 5 days. Sorry, 5 days. Yeah, so we'll be well, me and the wife will be just hanging out and having some fun. But Scott, thank you very much for making time for me and my podcast. I really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, and
Thank-
if people are in Detroit, come check us out on July 23rd. And for everybody that's on the East Coast, fingers crossed, we'll be coming to a town near you with our Hoffa Mystery Solved live podcast program. Um, you know, revealing all the secrets that people have been clamoring for 50 years. We're gonna give it to everybody. And I'll say again, without patting myself too hard on the back, we're giving stuff to people that they've never seen or heard before. You're not going to get the same old names and the same old. You're going to get fresh information on a pretty old case.
All right, that's going to be fascinating. If you guys come to New York or Jersey, I'm definitely going to be there. So
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
thank you very much, Scott. I'll talk to you
Thanks,
soon.
Johnny.
All
All right,
right,
buddy.
later.